the reason that you're taking some time this morning. Feel free to speak up. You won't be the only one to probably have that question. And then we'll get started in just a couple minutes.
Yep. I really appreciate everybody joining in today and having a look at what can be done with GeoData. So I'm Frederick Witterson, and I'm the founder of RealZips, and I have my co-founder Ethan Alexander. And on my end, I've been a Salesforce administrator like most of us in this call today for many, many years. And there were certain pain points, and I looked them back to Ethan, and because he's coming from the Salesforce side of things, and spoke about the problems, the challenges I had running with many, many administrators. And Ethan and I came up with this application we're going to showcase today.
Perfect segue. I think we can probably start to get started here. I'll give a little bit of background, and as Frederick mentioned, we did team up to basically help Salesforce customers because we were experiencing a lot of similar issues with the data within Salesforce, and just figured there's a better way to do it, and why not utilize the millions of bits of geographic data that are out there, but make them very usable, very actionable, right within a native application, and that's what we did with RealZips. My background, and maybe some of you on the call know who I am, I actually helped start a group called Sendia back in 2003, and we were a partner of Salesforce. We actually mobile-enabled the early days of Salesforce.com. We also mobile-enabled Siebel and PeopleSoft with our mobile platform, and Salesforce acquired our group in 2006. So if any of you are using what's now Salesforce Mobile or the Salesforce One platform, that is actually a descendant of a company I helped become a part of and sell to Salesforce in 2006. And then I was a part of Salesforce up until the early start of 2011, and really in that huge growth phase of Salesforce and a lot of great customer success. And probably many of you, we overlapped in those times when I was working there, helping to run the business development side of Salesforce Mobile. But as Fred mentioned a second ago, there were a lot of growth components to Salesforce, and obviously in the mobile environment, and they all need to be coupled into one, and that's really where this RealZips platform has come to play. And as you can see at the very bottom of the slide here, we've got the icons that are kind of just quick little reference points, and you'll see that on our App Exchange listing, and everything from enriching your CRM data. In other words, is it really true that the headquarters is there and the sub-offices are in different places? Well, the great thing about the geographic data is we can validate a lot of these components literally instantly when we enable the geographic data component, so we have access to, along with your data. So we enrich the data. We actually put the components to accurately manage your territories. So it doesn't matter if you have one sales rep or, as some of our customers have, 14 to 15 sales reps per zip code. You're really able to identify who owns what, which account, which hospital, which doctor's office, which office building, all those components right within a very clear geographic radius and with those data bits. And of course that follows on to the leads and the ownership. We saw, and actually when Frederick was working on this many years ago when I first identified it as a true native product for Salesforce, that was one of the biggest problems. Leads were being misrouted to the wrong reps. How do you identify that? Well, there's geographic data, and in the same sense you can validate the ownership of those accounts. So we'll show you what this looks like in just the next couple of minutes. But again, as you're surfacing and sharing this with your teams internally and trying to validate some of your own objectives, these are some quick reference points that really bring it across the board for the sales, the marketing, and overall potential that you're working on here. So that brings us into identifiers. We have icons that will tell you and your sales reps in very clear reports where they've spent too much time or where they haven't spent enough time, and what organizations and individuals are going to make a difference in that ramp up and that revenue component. So very easy to run. We actually have quick link reports that we create with you after all these components are put in place, and it's actually quite simple in making this happen. One of the best examples is that targeting locations, the next icon over. Marketing. Have you been marketing to the wrong people in the wrong cities or in the wrong zip codes? This is the exact way that you can actually use geographic data to identify exactly who is in a particular zip code if you want to perform advertising or marketing events or very specific details. So we bring that all right into your instance of Salesforce. And of course, one of the most important components, and one of the huge things that I was a major advocate for, were the dashboard components, to be able to track that performance real time on what is really going on with your teams and make you look like a superstar from an administrator's level, but also from a management level. And then finally, that mobile component. This is actually really where we started with this, because everybody is in the field, so you can utilize RealZips, obviously through the Salesforce platform, in all types of environments, no matter where you are, no matter where your teams are. So this is actually where we started the whole program, to make it purely a mobile-first component and native to your environment. That's a quick introduction.
Good.
Wow, that was long.
I think it's good, Ethan. And then remember, we had those conversations, Ethan, as you were working with the mobile at Salesforce, and I was the Salesforce admin. We often ran presentations at Dreamforce, etc. And I kept explaining that, hey, I have a problem here, Ethan, because it's a daily pain point. I'm administrating Salesforce, just like the team on this call here, and I have those pain points. And my people using Salesforce, they're calling me. They cannot find their own data. They're having problems to be able to run reports across their sales territories. And marketing calling me saying, hey, we need to run it. We need to prepare for invitations for an upcoming event, and we cannot really run reports across a county. We cannot run a report across metropolitan area. And we always kept coming back to ownership. That how do you align ownership and get ownership of leads, accounts, and contacts right? So those are the discussions we had for many, many years. And it pretty much the pain points and all us Salesforce admins were going through it. How do we get our CRM data to be better organized? And pretty much we just came to the conclusion, team, Ethan and I, that we needed to build this application, RealZips, pretty much to avoid getting punched by our users. So that's pretty much the background here between Ethan and I. Yeah, I think we should.
And one thing to also note about that is
jump in.
Is that scalability. I mean, you started off with just a few hundred sales reps and went up to, was it 1,200 or almost a couple thousand, right?
No, before we start building this application, I left an instance with 1,200 users. So all those problems, Ethan, was daily occurrence on having those problems, finding data, how do we report, what about ownership? I know many companies that are running with their contacts customer lists in Salesforce, and ownership could be off between 5 to 15%. So we have 1,200 users, and those challenges every day, Ethan.
Perfect.
The next slide is how the application looks like when you of course you install it. The free trial, you install the application itself. It becomes a tab, just one single tab, team. Just adding a tab to your existing tabs. You get 40,000 zip codes inside of Salesforce, living inside of Salesforce, and you can start looking across those 3 million data points that we put in. We put in 3 million data points that will enrich all your existing information. So everything that's being put in regards to geographic data, examples being the city name. Another example would be the county name. You would have the metropolitan area. You would have population. You would have how many companies do exist in every zip code. The magic here that kind of happens is all the data that we add, geographic data, is becoming completely mixed with all your existing information, Ethan, right?
Yeah, I think that's a key component, and probably what the audience is realizing is we've taken these vast amounts of demographic, business, county, federal, city, census. It's an insane amount of all different types of geographic data points as a baseline, and we use our algorithms to spend really just almost minutes to import that into the proper fields and the proper organization within your own instance of Salesforce. So this is a managed package. We're not keeping the data or your data anywhere outside of Salesforce at all. We're literally taking the most relevant data for your vertical, your business, and putting it in there so you can actually start to find out who's in that zip code, what's in that zip code. You can see some of the icons on the right there, even down to the census data and the capita income by zip code. And we'll show a little bit more of this detail, but the point that Fred's making, and I'm just kind of enhancing, is that once you get this into your environment, you'll start to probably be surprised at ownership levels or demographic details that you may or may not be aware of, or even other potential business opportunities that are across the street compared to the groups that you've actually been dealing with in the past. But we'll get into some more of those details. But I think the key point here is there's a variety of data that is bundled into those 3 million data points, and we can certainly provide more specifics based on your vertical as well. But yeah, let's move on with some more examples there, Fred.
Absolutely, and let's look back to the icons. Just a quick look at it where we started, seeing how the icons on the first page, the features that we give you, such as enriching your data that we expanded on here, how those things map against the benefits for your team. And this took us a long time to come up with this strategy, how we're going to make this application that benefits your team. So as you can see, across all the icons that our product RealZips deliver, we have very specific benefits that will help your team. And as you can see, we just pick a few here. We spoke about enriching CRM data that we're learning now from our customers using the product. This truly speeds up sales, and it speeds up marketing campaigns and the overall administrative workflow that Salesforce admins do about having this enriched data. So you can, and we will share this presentation with you. You can download it, you get it as an email. Across all the different icons and features that we provide, there's going to be benefits across the whole organization team. Any comment on that part, Ethan, from you?
No, what we like to do is also, what we hear often from the customers is, you gave me actionable sales intelligence, that very bottom little bullet point there. And in other words, the sales reps can see right in their instance of Salesforce which accounts are, and actually which regions and locations are sort of overworked and underworked. So they have a good example and very clear set of icons that give them sort of that what they should be doing next and where they should be focusing, what type of areas and what type of components. So everybody's a little bit different. And again, that's where it's going to come down to the customer data here and having your own revelations. But these are the things we've heard most often.
Absolutely. And let's jump in, team, at the icon number 2, how to manage territories, because we love to show you a screenshot from an iPad, what it looks like for your sales team as they're sitting at the favorite coffee shop and looking at a territory, looking at a zip code, and who's actually covering a zip code. So we're going to go into the managed territories and look at a screenshot. So there we are. We're sitting at the coffee shop and we're planning where we're going to be working. You can see for every zip code, all 40,000 zip codes, you get a map so you know the exact layout of the area. And you start looking at the territories. And this is a huge benefit for pretty much any company that are having salespeople and are breaking up their sales operations geographically. And I don't know how many people I spoke to, they do not even know, as a sales rep, they do not even know their colleagues that are selling a different product or selling into a different industry segment. So they cannot really call the colleague and say, hey, I have a customer here that you should be talking to because they are in your industry vertical. But you look at your iPad, you look at the zip codes, you look at a city, and those are the kind of things you can see. So you look at the zip code, you look at the territory, you know who's going to be your primary salesperson, senior salesperson. And on this page, you can list who's the support specialist. You can break up your sales territories. You can break up your sales regions across your different sales teams. And you can, of course, you can just keep adding here your channel territory if you're working through channels, if you're running a franchise operation, if you have resellers. All those things will be completely spelled out so everybody can share information about how the territories work, Ethan. And that's a huge benefit for most companies to kind of fly in the dark, not really knowing their own territories.
And Fred, there's also a way that we can validate who owns what territory. So you want to, I think the next slide might have some of those icons, so we can actually
Yeah.
identify who's actually the owner and who might not be in a very quick view.
That's a huge point you're making there, but because we kind of set the foundation here, Ethan, at who is owning what. Yeah, who's the primary salesperson? Who's owning the different type of product lines that are being sold into a zip code? And as we look at the next slide, that's when you look at, for example, leads, Ethan, and you might have 100,000 leads, so you might have 20,000 leads, and you start second guessing yourself. Wait a minute, I am wondering if actually those leads should be owned by me as a salesperson. As a Salesforce admin like me, you start second guessing yourself. I'm wondering if those 100,000 leads are actually mapped against the right salespeople, because as we all know, salespeople quit, new ones come in, you need to change ownership, your territories change behind the scenes, and that you might have out of 100,000 leads, 10,000 leads might be no longer owned by the right person. And those are the kind of problems I had, Ethan, on a daily basis. So that's why we built this application. You get the baseline from every zip code, who should be owning what. When you look at your leads, for example, Ethan, it's super simple because you're going to get the red X. If the red X is right there, you know that this lead or customer record is not owned by the right person. It's really changing the game, Ethan.
Well, yeah, we certainly want to try and make it simple for everybody. But the other component that I think is really cool, and we found this out from a couple customers just last week, but it's actually dynamic too. So as they corrected and rearranged their territories, they actually were able to reassign leads. But they also found out that a few hundred of those leads were previously misassigned. So they got a nice report saying which ones should, and actually who should own them. And that was actually just done in a couple of minutes after RealZips was in place and actually up and running. So it might make a difference for the audience here, but everybody's got their own objectives and sort of nuances of their environment. So it's a good learning process, but makes a difference.
Absolutely. Let's look at the iPad again, because we love mobile, obviously. And again, we're looking at a single record here. You're looking at this Dr. Heroes, and your salespeople is about to go out there and do their work every day, like they do. And they can instantly, looking at the iPad, they can make sure to group all data, all leads. They can pick a county, they can pick a zip code level, they can pick a city, they can group their information and really plan out their day. They can plan out which days they're going to visit certain areas within the territory. And always, if you look at the lead record, you're going to get this little checkbox. Is this lead actually owned by me as a salesperson? So you get that the worries that it says people live with. Am I working on the right leads? Am I working with the right customers that should be mine? We remove that part, Ethan. It's gone. You don't need to worry about these things because everything is mapped behind the scenes. Another component here we put on this page is up here. And we will talk a little bit more about this later, but we actually pulled all data that applies for your industry, data that applies for who your salespeople are going to. If they're going to doctors of a certain type, we can figure out, help you to get the potential. How many doctors are there in this area? And if you get 3 stars like we have here, this salesperson knows that there are many, many people that he can visit with or she can visit with that would actually be the target group, Ethan.
Yeah, the icons are key because they appear everywhere. It also utilizes all the existing data, and the geodata is mapped over that to identify those potentials, but also provide those recommendations. And again, this is dynamic, so as more data comes in, it automatically feeds up and goes through. And I'm sure that one of the things that has not happened to anybody on this audience is ever having conflicts in who owns what account, or any clawbacks that have had to occur. And I know that was one of the questions that you had when you were an administrator. It's like, how do we ensure that this data and this company belongs to those reps or that team? So it's another way to really just validate some of these things in any type of environment. So icons are huge help.
Oh, absolutely, and it's a little bit of the hidden secret when it comes to CRM that's in behind the scenes. Under the hood, you're trying to figure out if the data is owned by the right person, because you never want to get to this point that somebody's owning a customer account and the money starts coming in, the revenue starts coming in, people getting paid commission, and then they find out afterwards that, hey, wait a minute, and this account producing 50,000 is not owned by the right salesperson. And that, don't tell anybody, but those are the kind of things that happen to us on a weekly basis. I'm sure it's not happening to you guys, but it's a common problem, making sure you get your territories, your customers, your commission payouts aligned. It's a big challenge for most companies, and we love to make sure that we are providing an insurance against those things happening. All right. Yeah, Ethan, I wanted to showcase, because we have a number of Salesforce admins here with us today, and one thing we often run into as admins is, how do you set up what's called a lead assignment rule? How do you technically set up your leads to be routed to the right salespeople? Let's say you have 100 salespeople and you have 40,000 zip codes, and you're trying to figure out those kind of technical details, scratching your head. How is it going to work within Salesforce to make sure you get, when a lead comes in through a website, how do I get it to the right salesperson? And this is how we solved it, team. That we have a small sales team, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people, and I'll let you guess from which TV series these names are coming from. Andy Bernard, Aaron Hannon, etc. They're pretty much setting up those lead assignment rules. What we do, and what the admin's been doing for years, is say, if it's equal to Ohio, it should be going to Andy. If it's equal to San Francisco, it should be going to Ethan. Or if it's in Fort Lauderdale, make it to come over to Frederick. And all those rules just get completely out of whack. You cannot control them, and you're trying to keep up with changes in territories. And I know endless people, including myself, fighting this battle. So what we do, you pretty much change your lead assignment rules. So 5 people, 40,000 zip codes, this is all you need to do. So if you have 100 people, you only have 100 lines to maintain, and you make sure it's right. Because if the zip code is owned by Andy, and that can run across 5,000 zip codes even, if the zip code is owned by Andy, we just kick this lead immediately. The lead will go to Andy. Done. This is all it takes. So it's very straightforward, simple process in the background that we provide.
Good validation rules. So existing systems are carried right into the GeoData that we provide. So that's perfect. Good. More.
Yeah. The next one is what we touched upon, the super important issue of making sure your existing data, your leads, accounts, contacts are owned by the right owner. So what we do when you install RealZips, you get going, you get those predefined reports. So you can actually run the report. And the story goes with, if you have 25,000 leads, you run a report, and it's going to actually tell you, the owner of the territory for this Cleveland Clinic lead is Pam, but it's currently owned by Andy. So it will actually tell you flat out that, hey, there's a different owner. And when you have those data points, you just go in and do your mass transfer of leads. That, hey, if there's a different owner, it's not Pam, but it should be. You just set up your mass transfer, looking at the reports, and you start moving things around. And I've seen examples within 30 minutes. We had 6,000 leads that were floating across the wrong salespeople, and we could take care of those 6,000 leads using RealZips within 20, 30 minutes. So that we probably, within half an hour, Ethan, we say the specific company, because I happened to look at it in a GoToMeeting as it all took place. It would have taken them 100 hours just to make sure it get that data aligned. And now they just run it on a bi-weekly basis, making sure that ownership is aligned across. It's powerful stuff.
Perfect. And I think that's also going to be a question from, obviously, our as we call them, the heroes, the administrators on the
Yep.
call. And typically in the GeoData, when we start bringing all this, amount of data, typically how long does it take to do an implementation and to set up some of the custom reports that we provide our clients and also those quick links? What would you say on like budget and time to kind of understand their environment and then get things going? I know that's going to be one of those main
Yeah.
questions.
Yes, that's an important question, Ethan. We're seeing times to get RealZips installed and putting the 3 million data points that we have, do the basic configuration to be up and running. We're looking at times for a mid-sized company, smaller company of an hour to be off the ground and start using it. The next thing you want to do is take maybe your 50, 60,000 leads and start linking them back, and that takes a couple hours. So your structure really becomes tight. So you can do things. I'm going to switch slide here, so I'm going to look at a pretty cool example because you need to link everything back to every zip code so you get the geodata structure of all your existing information. So the short answer, Ethan, is within a few days of putting RealZips in place, getting the data in place, getting your own data structured, you can start taking full advantage of this application.
Perfect. So in this example, this is for the audience. I just clicked on a zip code or any combination of a city or a county or a state, and I can see all the related data, of course, the leads, accounts, contacts, opportunities, how they're organized within any particular zip code. So you can really get down to a lot of the minutia and the detail, obviously, of your existing data, but how it overlays with the geodata. And I think it's always cool to kind of show, maybe vertical examples as well.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And on this screenshot here, yeah, we always had people going for a wild goose chase looking for leads, accounts, and contacts before they were going into the city. I had somebody calling me from Beverly Hills pretty often saying, I can't find my information. But if you really get this, you pull up a zip code or you pull up a city, and you can start looking across all your data in Salesforce, it completely changes the game. Should we look at potential, Ethan? How do we help people to find where they should be going and looking for customers?
Absolutely.
This is one of our favorite parts, our data sets that we provide across different industries. We provide it down to type of decision makers, down to different types of people that we want to target. So you're looking at one zip code here. And again, we're the salesperson out there having coffee in the morning trying to figure out in a zip code, in a city, in a county, trying to figure out where should I be. So we provide these data sets. You enrich those data sets into RealZips, and everything connects back to your existing information. And it's really, customers are telling us it's a game changer because you have your own customer data and you have your leads. And that's actually, it's just a fraction of your overall potential that you're looking at. You're looking at a keyhole of information of customers and leads, but it's really important to learning from customers. You need to get the big picture. Look at the pinpoint there. If you know in a zip code you have a number of hospitals and you have 78 potential physicians that your sales team should be talking to or your marketing team should try to pinpoint and start marketing towards, that's a huge difference from having maybe 30 or 25 leads within the zip code or within the city. So this is what we do. We give you those data sets and then enrich your information, and you can really start looking at the difference between 7 to 8 possible physicians, compare them to your leads and contacts, which might be 20, and you just run the numbers between 20 possible and then how many you have that you can reach. It's a huge benefit.
And this is by vertical too. So this is one example for healthcare. But there's many vertical examples that are in play.
Absolutely. The next slide, yeah, because you love mobile, right? And we got to make sure the application running on mobile. So we just want to showcase this slide for you, team.
Yeah, so you can see the outline of the zip code on the far right. Obviously, a lot of zip codes are very strange, the way they're shaped, but that's just the way it is. But you can actually map those, so you can actually see who's within that based on the data that's on the left, though. So there's different visual cues that will be automatically presented into your instance of Salesforce.
Yep. We have 2 more slides, team, and then we're going to open up for questions. But we just had to show you a report, which was a daily struggle on my end, Ethan. People asking that, hey, we're going to host an event in Fort Lauderdale. We need to break up in the metropolitan area of Fort Lauderdale. We need to find all the people that we can be talking to, break it up from the metropolitan down to your city, down to your zip code. And this whole structure of being able to run reports on your existing data, that's what we provide. And that last
Perfect. So you don't want to
slide,
invite somebody from New York unless it's really, really cold up there. So you can actually target specific areas. That's the key.
That's true. Absolutely true. Bring them down here. And so our message to you, team, is that it's time to stop this pain we all have running Salesforce, not knowing ownership is being set up right, not being able to structure information geographically. We've been through these things for 10 years, Ethan and I. Created this application for you, so I'd love to help you to start the free trial here.
So kind of as a quick wrap up, I mean, this is a managed package on Salesforce. And some of the background of the application, we spent a little over 2 years building the algorithms and the custom fields and objects so everything can actually tie in completely to your component of Salesforce. So what we want to do is open it up. If there are specific questions or objectives you might have, you can also reach out to either Fred or myself. And a lot of this information is going to be available right at RealZips.com, and there's a lot of screenshots and other examples on there. So let's go ahead and open it up to questions. It sounds like it's a bit of an echo right now, but anybody have anything in particular that can help?
It seems like what happened in movies is that when you feel like a victim, you're almost blinded.
Sounds like a good movie there.
Other people.
There.
Well, that always is a little bit of fun feedback.
Yep, absolutely.
The other option is you can type in a question over in the little messaging board right on the GoToMeeting there. But we certainly want to help out, or if there's any questions at all, this is where it gets interesting and fun.
Yep. I got a question here from Bob asking if a Gold Partner licensees can get access to the RealZips tab. And if I remember right, the Gold Partner would be a portal user. And that we can look back and then have a look at how we would open up the Gold Partners and make it accessible to an outside team. So thank you, Bob.
Good point.
Feel free to put your questions in there into either you unmute yourself or you can just put the questions into the GoToWebinar box and ask those questions to us.
So I guess if that is nothing coming through, check out the App Exchange. Obviously, download the managed package. Get to work on just kind of checking things out in your own environment. We can certainly actually guide you through this entire process. Like Fred said, it would be about a 30 to 45-minute call to kind of walk through all the integrations and to get some data plugged in. We also set up some of the custom reports and the quick links, and you can see a lot of those, obviously, at our RealZips.com. Maybe there's one more chance for questions, but to everyone, thanks for taking the time today. There is a lot of power in geographic data, and that's what we're going to provide to some of these early adopters here, which obviously are you, and looking forward to making a difference in your use of Salesforce.
Yep, thank you everybody for joining us in our webinar, and we will be providing the recording. We will be providing the presentation that you can use and showcase to your team. So thank you very much, and thank you from my end, Fred Widersen.
Well, this is Ethan. Thanks, everybody. Look forward to speaking with you soon.
Thank you so much. Take care, everyone.